Hey, shut it off. I'm trying to speak here. Shut it off. Huh. Man. God damn. Whew. Anyway, Leatherface, a big fat psycho who wields a big ass chainsaw and wields your face if he kills you. Yes, you heard that right. He'll wear your face if you die. It's bonkers. And that's the only word to describe the line of movies Leatherface stars in. And that line, of course, can only be known as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm going to be discussing all the movies that this psychomaniac has starred in. Leatherface is widely regarded as a horror icon. You see him in a bunch of artwork with horror characters, and he has a ton of memorable deaths. He has his own comics, and even starred in Mortal Kombat X, which is hilarious. His character is actually based on the real-life serial killer known as Ed Gein, who was a cannibal and made furniture out of human flesh and skeletons. That's a big theme in these movies, a family that is nuts and eats people. Hannibal Lecter would get along with them just fine. The first movie, released in 1974, and kick-started, some would say, the slasher genre, but that's definitely up for debate. It was a big deal when it first released, mainly because they were trying to market it as a true story to attract a wider audience, especially with that narrative intro in the beginning. But the plot is all fiction. It centers on 5 teens, 3 boys, 2 girls, 4 of them are lovers, and the guy in the wheelchair, whose name is Franklin, is a loner, sorry Franklin, are traveling to visit an old homestead out in the countryside when they all of a sudden fall victim to a family of cannibals. The movie is only 84 minutes and gets going right away, so I don't spend enough time with these characters to care for a single one. Especially when you're watching it now, you just root for Leatherface. He's awesome. I will say that the opening narrative is creepy and it does get me invested every time I see it, but what comes after is the main highlight. It's one of the best scenes to ever start a horror movie. Just a dead corpse hanging on top of a tombstone holding on to the head of another corpse as the camera slowly pans back and the radio is playing. It gives me chills every time, and might be my favorite scene in the whole franchise. Why is the corpse there? Why is it holding the head of another corpse? Why is it on top of a tombstone? Who cares? It just gets you hooked on some chainsaw massacre. The kills are very gruesome too. The first to go is the most handsome of the 3 guys because, of course he is. But that reveal of Leatherface is still one of the best because it comes out of nowhere. The guy and his girlfriend were just investigating the house to see if there was a phone they could use, and then bang! Awesome. The acting in this movie is believable, I'll give it that. The teens are goofy with one another, but when they pick up the hitchhiker is when it gets downright serious. Jim Saito is really good as Drayton Sawyer. At first, he's a very kind and respectful, but as the movie goes on, he is downright nuts. He's not as crazy, but he's still just as creepy.
Uncomfortable down there.
Then there's Nubbin Sawyer. He's the whack job. There's always gotta be someone like him in these movies. He dies by a frickin' truck, by the way, and he looks like a crash test dummy in The Little Shot. Then, the funniest of all is Grandpa Sawyer, who's like 200 years old and can't move for shit. It's so funny how they try to get him to use a hammer on one of the teens, and he can't even do it. I always think he's dead, but he's not. Oh, that's some classic stuff. And that's the Sawyer family. This movie did have a lot going for it. It had great camera angles and shots, believable acting, a nice setting to set up the mood. As a matter of fact, the farmhouse used in the movie has now been restored into a restaurant. I hate to get a cheeseburger there and then all of a sudden end up with a chainsaw in my chest. But anywho, I think I should talk about what this movie has done for the movie business as a whole. It's widely regarded as one of the best horror films ever, but also one of the most controversial, mainly due to its violence on women. Even though the final girl escapes and rides off into the sunset, many people mostly hold on to the image of her being tortured throughout the movie and screaming her lungs out the whole time. When it first released, it received a mixed bag from critics, but since then, it's been highly praised. As a matter of fact, it's not even that gory either. Seriously, you'd expect it to be after watching all the sequels, but it's not. So 5 up to that. It's received many awards since release, and Gunnar Hansen is best known as Leatherface, especially that end shot of him dancing with that chainsaw with the sunset in the background makes for one of the best horror endings ever. I mean, ever. The final girl laughing like a lunatic, Nubbins is hit by a truck, Leatherface dances off into the sunset, and Grandpa Sawyer still can't move. And you have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What a crazy 84 minutes of your life. You'll either be amazed at what you see or disgusted. It did gather a lot of talk upon release, controversy, universal praise, etc. And I think that's what the director Tobe Hooper wanted. Even directors like Wes Craven and Ridley Scott were influenced by it with their own films, The Hills Have Eyes and Alien. So it does have its name out there, but oh ho ho ho, we're not done yet, because things are about to get even more crazy, so stay tuned for more Chainsaw Massacre. And Grandpa Sawyer still can't move. Hey, shut it off, we're done here.